So the previous lesson we looked at when the bottom of the fractions were just monomials, okay, nothing was being subtracted or added. Today we're going to look at polynomials. Fortunately, the worksheet's not that bad. I'm going to give you an example that's harder. That way I know you can do every question on the worksheet just fine. But it's still this one's going to involve factoring. Some simple factoring, okay? I don't think there's any X method or anything on the worksheet. Basically pulling out a GCF. Remember, the word combine means to add or subtract. And remember, adding and subtracting, the only difference it makes is with the numerator, right? You don't add or subtract the denominator, you add the numerators. But what you do need is a common denominator, so same kind of steps. Let's go ahead and get to the first example. I'll read this for you. We got x plus 2 over 2x minus 2 minus, top of that fraction is negative 2x minus 1 over x squared minus 4x plus 3. So you see now the denominators are now polynomials, not just monomials. And we have to follow a little different set of steps in order to solve this. But like I said, I'll give you a hint. You have to factor everything first. So as you're writing this down, how would you factor the bottom left? Pull out a 2, okay. The top is good, right? Can't factor that. Top right, you can pull out a negative 1, right? How about the bottom right? X method, because it has... Yes, and you can use a shortcut for this one because the leading coefficient is 1. So she's saying whatever the sides of the x are will give you factorization. I'm going to go ahead and just do the x on here real quick. So you got 1 times 3 on top, right, and negative 4 on bottom. Okay, right. Negative 3 times negative 1 gives you 3, and negative 3 plus negative 1 gives you negative 4. So when you factor this, it's going to become x minus 3, x minus 1. And we already talked about pulling out the GCF for the other two. Any questions on that? However, let's go to the first step. Completely factor the numerators and denominators. Okay, so I just kind of went over everything there. This one had a GCF of 2. This one has a GCF of negative 1, so just pulling a negative out. And then the bottom right is X method. Okay, any questions about step 1, factoring? We've already done this kind of step when we were multiplying and dividing. Step 2, cancel any common factors. Just like we had monomial denominators. I don't know if that's going to happen anywhere on the worksheet, but let me talk about what I mean by that, just in case it happens. Let's just say, for example, that this was x plus 1, right? And this was let's say this was x minus 1 and this was x minus 1. You could then just go ahead and cross those out, make it easier, right?
Just put a 2 on the bottom.
Exactly. Or if let's say this was x minus 3, I could cancel it with the x minus 3. So if that happens, you want to go ahead and cancel common factors for step 2. Okay? Obviously nothing cancels for this one, so that's why I put not applicable for this particular problem. You still need to have that step though, right? Because it's a step that's necessary to make the problem easier if you can cancel anything. That's fine. Okay, step 3, we're going to, let me change this a little bit. Okay. When you're finding the least common multiple, it's important to kind of know the powers. Just kind of, well, not necessarily, but like, okay. Every factor has a power of 1. Okay? And so when we're finding the LCM of these, okay, to the left is my left denominator, to the right is my right denominator. Can everybody see that they both have an x minus 1? Mm-hmm. Okay. So we don't have to include it twice, okay? But we do have to include every single factor that occurs. So first of all, everybody see there's a 2 there? That's going to be part of my LCM, okay? And like I said, next we have an x minus 1, which has a power of 1 for both. So x minus 1 is going to be the second part of my LCM. And the third part is going to be the x minus 3. So your LCM is a set of factors now, not just a monomial. Basically what you're doing is you're finding all the factors that exist and just writing them all out. And you don't have to write x minus 1 twice because they both have an x minus 1 to the first power. You're not going to see anything on the worksheet. Everything on the worksheet actually has just 2 factors, I think, not 3. So this one should cover the base for everything. And so basically now it's kind of like what we've done before. How can we turn each of the bottoms into the LCM? So what is this missing that the other one has? The x minus 3, right? In order for this to become the LCM, I'd have to multiply it by x minus 3. What about the one on the right? 2. Okay? So for your next step, you're going to multiply the numerator and denominator to turn it into the LCM by these factors that are missing, basically. And so now we can see that the bottom left fraction will turn into our LCM. The bottom right fraction will turn, I don't know why I didn't multiply this by 2. The bottom right will also turn into LCM if we multiply it by 2. Okay, notice you still have that negative there, so it's going to be negative 2 basically. So this is very similar to monomials, right? You're trying to get the bottoms the same in terms of the least common multiple. That's all you're going to do. So step 4 is going to be just to turn the left into the LCM, and the next step will turn the right into the LCM, so we'll multiply it by 2. So you probably already have that written down, but this is the next one. Multiply the right by the LCM. Basically, you're just determining, for step 5, you're just determining which factor on the right doesn't include on the left, and that would be the 2. Okay. It doesn't matter. So we're going to multiply the right by that factor to make it the LCM, which is 2. And now they both have the same denominator, right? Even though the order is different, it doesn't matter, right? It's still 2 times x minus 3 times x minus 1. And then and only then can you combine the fractions. What's kind of different about this lesson is you have to multiply this stuff out. So we have a binomial times a binomial here, and then we would need to distribute the 2 into both of these as well as the negative. So it takes a little bit more, which is why we just started with the easy stuff. What I normally do is just combine them in one step and then simplify. So all I did was I took the numerator from here and the numerator from here and subtracted them. And so notice you do have a double minus. That's going to become a plus. But like I said, for step 7, just combine them first. Now the good news is you will not have to multiply the bottom out ever. Okay? You'll always leave the bottom factored. But for the top, we can't combine any of this stuff on the top until we multiply everything out. So we'll have to FOIL this. We'll have to distribute this. Obviously the minus minus will come plus. And then we can combine the top. Like I said, this example is going to be a little bit harder than everything on the worksheet. So this should cover the base, all the bases. Okay, so when you FOIL this first part out, it'd be x squared minus 3x plus 2x minus 6. It's going to end up being x squared minus x minus 6. Okay, and then on the right, minus minus becomes plus, right? You're going to do 2 times 2x, which is 4x, 2 times 1, which is 2. So it becomes 4x plus 2 on the right. Okay, this is the reason we multiplied everything out, because now we can combine the x terms and the constant terms. And it makes it simpler, which is the goal. The goal is to simplify everything. So what is minus x plus 4x? Minus x plus 4x equals minus x plus 4x. Nope. Minus x plus 4x equals what? 3x. And then minus 6 plus 2? Negative 4. Okay, so everybody sees there's no other x squared term over here, so this is going to remain x squared. You just need to combine these like terms right here. So what we're doing now for step 8 is performing PEMDAS. So what are we doing? We're multiplying everything out, and then we're adding and subtracting, right? And then whatever you get there is going to be your answer. So let's combine these, and we'll be good to go. What I did was I grouped the x terms first. If you want to group them first, you can, and then combine them. So minus 1x plus 4x is 3x. Negative 6 plus 2 is negative 4. Notice something about this problem. Once you're finished combining everything, you can actually factor this again using the diamond method or the x method. Okay? Go ahead and do it on this page. So what would be at the top of the x? Negative 4, good. And the bottom? Two numbers, well, what would go on the side? Yep, 4 and negative 1. Doesn't matter the order. Okay? So you can see off the bat that when this factors, it will become x plus 4, x minus 1. Why is that important? Because if I end up with an x minus 1 on top, I can cancel it again with this x minus 1 on bottom. Alright? But like I said, I don't think it's going to happen on the worksheet. I'm giving you one there that's a little bit more advanced so that you can, everything on the worksheet will seem easy. So the top will factor to x plus 4, x minus 1. And then, like I said, you can see that that's going to cancel, right? The easier the better, right? The simpler the better. So that's going to go away on the top, that's going to go away on the bottom. Yeah, so step 9, factoring the numerator, is important if you can. Like I said, though, on the worksheet, I don't think you can. All right, so next step is to cancel the common factors. Any questions on that step? That one's the easiest, probably. And the final step is kind of leave it up to you whether or not you want to multiply this out. Okay? Somebody asked about that before. If it's a 2 by 2, you wouldn't multiply it out. You'd leave it as 2 factors. But this one, if I multiply this out, I'm left with 2x minus 6. So I'm left with 3 terms instead of 2. It all depends on the problem. Then just multiply the top and bottom, and that's it. Okay, so notice we started with all of this, lots of stuff going on, and we simplified it down to just this. Okay? So I'll give you the worksheet, and